I am Emily Carter, and I am standing downstairs in the glass building in Manhattan, New York, holding a ring in my hand and looking up at the man. I took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee the moment he passed me. The whole Midtown crowd was watching. Alexander Hayes, my voice shook badly in the winter wind, but I still raised the ring. This is the 109th time I tell you that I like you. It took me 8 years from the age of 15 to now. He stopped. Those around him also stopped. The financial director, who always had a straight face, raised his eyebrows, and Alexander's assistant named Jack took a breath of air. I heard someone whispering behind me, someone laughing, someone taking out a cell phone to take pictures. Who in this building doesn't know Alexander? The young boss of Hayes Group, the youngest mergers and acquisitions director on Wall Street, and the son-in-law coveted by mothers all over New York's Upper East Side. And I'm just the daughter of an electrician in Brooklyn, and I've been chasing him since he moved next door to me when he was 15. He looked down at me, his gray-blue eyes without any warmth. He looked at me for about 10 seconds, then tilted his head slightly and spoke in the pitiful tone that was characteristic of him when he spoke to me. Emily, you are just a child I watched grow up. When I heard this sentence, I felt like my heart was being grabbed. Not the kind of pain described in romance novels, but real, physical suffocation. There were people laughing around me, and I heard a woman say, "Oh my God, she's so embarrassing," and a man said, "Hayes is right, who is this woman?" My knees were on the cold marble floor, and the coldness penetrated from the cracks in my bones. He turned to leave. I looked at his back, and the coat I picked out for him was swaying in the wind. I looked down at the ring in my hand. It was made in a small jewelry store in Brooklyn and cost me 3 months of savings. It's made of silver, with A+E engraved on it. I engraved it by myself, and it's a little crooked, but the clerk said it feels handmade. I stood up, walked to the trash can next to me, and threw the ring in. Then you will never see me grow up again in your life. When I said this, my voice was steadier than I expected. I saw his steps pause, but I didn't wait for him to look back. I turned around and walked into the crowd, and my shoulder bumped into a man holding a mobile phone. He cursed, but I ignored him. My boots slipped on the icy pavement with every step, but I walked so fast that I almost tripped over a manhole cover. I heard someone behind me calling my name, Jack's voice, but I didn't stop. When I walked into the subway station, tears started to fall. I leaned against the pillar of the platform and looked at the billboard on the opposite wall. On it, a woman with a bright smile was selling an anti-aging cream. I squatted down, buried my face in my knees, and cried for about 15 minutes. During this period, a homeless man came over and asked me if I had any change. I gave him $5, and then he sat next to me and started telling me the story about his wife running away with someone. The subway came, I got on the bus and sat next to an old lady. She glanced at me, took out a pack of tissues from her bag and handed it to me. I said thank you, and she said it was okay. She had lived in Brooklyn for 70 years and had never seen anything. I returned to my apartment, the single room I rented in Manhattan for $3, $200 per month. It was too small to fit a decent wardrobe, but the window could see the spire of the Empire State Building. I stood in front of the window and stared for a long time, then took out my phone and started deleting his number. I deleted his note in my address book, Alexander Redhart. It was changed when I was 16 and has never been changed. Then I opened the social software and deleted all the photos we took together, a total of 147 of them. The earliest photo was from his 18th birthday. I was standing next to him, smiling like a fool, and he was looking at the camera with an expressionless face. At that time, I thought he was very cool like this. I posted an update and just wrote one sentence: I finally chose someone who chose me. The accompanying picture is a photo taken a few days ago when I went to have coffee with Ryan Brooks. Ryan was my college classmate. He opened a bicycle shop in Brooklyn. He had big muscles and had 2 tiger teeth when he smiled. He pursued me for 2 years and I still refused. In the photo, he was holding my coffee and making faces at the camera. I was standing next to him, smiling and making a yes gesture. 3 minutes after posting it, the comments exploded. I turned off my phone and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. There was a water stain on the ceiling shaped like a penguin that I discovered the first day I moved in. I stared at the piece of penguin for a long time, and then I heard my phone vibrate. I didn't look. Another shock. Another shock. After about 20 shocks, I picked it up and took a look. All news from Alexander. Number 1, are you serious? Number 2, the guy on the bike? Article 3, Emily, don't be naive. Article 4, reply my message. The 5th post is a screenshot of the post I posted. He drew a red circle on it, surrounding Ryan's face, and put a question mark next to it. I turned the phone over and clasped it on the bedside table, turned over and put the quilt over my head. I buried my face in the pillow and smelled the smell of my own shampoo. It was coconut flavored. He had said before that he didn't like the smell and said it was too sweet. I'd been using coconut-scented shampoo for 3 years just because he said he didn't like it. I fell asleep and dreamed about when I was 15. He moved next door to my house for the first time, wearing a white shirt and standing in the yard reading a particularly thick book. I leaned on the fence and asked him what his name was. He looked up at me and said, "Alexander." I said, "My name is Emily," and he said, "I know." I said, "How do you know?" And he said, "You get up at 6 o'clock every morning and sing, and the whole street knows your name is Emily." I blushed and the corners of his mouth moved. That was the first time I saw him smile. When the alarm clock rang, I found that the pillow was wet. The next days were like a war. I got rid of everything related to him. I sent the scarf he gave me back to his company with a note saying, "Give it back to you. I don't have any use for it anymore." I went to cancel the fitness card he applied for me. When the front desk asked me why, I said, "The person who applied for the card is dead." I broke the mug I stole from his office and threw it into the trash. I moved from Manhattan to a 2-bedroom apartment in Queens, shared with a nurse named Sophia. The rent was half the price. There was a brick wall across the window, no view of the Empire State Building, but there was a nice pizza place downstairs. I only told my mother and 3 friends about my new address and did not post it on social platforms. I started going out with Ryan a lot. Not a date, at least that's what I told myself, but Ryan clearly didn't think so. He took me to see indie bands play, he took me to Coney Island to ride the roller coaster, he took me to his shop and taught me to repair my bicycle. I learned how to change tires, how to adjust brakes, and I had a few more band-aids on my hands, but I spent more time laughing than before. I posted a picture of Ryan and I eating hot dogs at Coney Island with the caption, "Hot dogs and happiness." 10 minutes later, news from Alexander came in, that hot dog stand is unsanitary, and you know it. I ignored him. He sent another message, "Have you moved? Send me the address." I deleted the dialog box. He sent again, "Emily, that's enough." I set him to do not disturb. But I know he's watching. He has read every one of my updates. There is a function on social software that allows you to see visitor records. He comes every day, sometimes several times a day. 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, anytime. He even commented below after I posted a photo of my car being repaired in Ryan's shop, "Don't get chain oil on your clothes, it won't be washed off." I stared at that comment for a long time. He also remembered that I hated doing laundry. I started posting more content with Ryan. Ryan taught me how to play billiards, Ryan took me to watch Brooklyn Nets games, and Ryan gave me a bouquet of sunflowers on my birthday. I sent a jugong with the text, "Someone remembers that I like sunflowers." Alexander didn't say anything, but I saw him come to my page 7 times that day. Then he started going wrong. Sophia works at the hospital, and one of her patients' husbands works in the Alexander building. She came back and told me, "You know, that guy from Hayes Group has been going crazy lately. He lost a client he had been with for 3 years, threw a cup in the conference room, and scolded his assistant twice." I listened, said nothing, and continued cutting my tomatoes. Sophia said, "Don't you want to know more?" I said no. But that night I had insomnia. I lay in bed and scrolled through my phone until 3 in the morning. I saw a post from him, which showed the night scene outside his office window. The caption only had 2 words, "Quiet." This is the first time I've seen him post something like this. He never posts private updates. His homepage is full of industry reports and company news, like a robot. This post was full of comments. His colleagues asked him if he was okay, his friends said, "Brother is out drinking," and his mother left a message of, "Go to bed early." I liked it and then canceled it. I don't know if he saw it. 2 weeks later, he appeared in front of me. I went to a coffee shop to interview for a part-time job that day. When I came out, I saw his car parked on the side of the road. A black Land Rover with a license plate number I recognized. It was a new car he got for his birthday last year. I pretended not to see it and walked in the opposite direction. I heard the car door open and his voice coming from behind. "Emily." I stopped and didn't look back. "The coffee shop you're interviewing for has a hygiene rating of B. You can find a better one." I turned and looked at him. He was standing next to the car, wearing a black down jacket. It was not the kind of coat he usually wore, but an expensive-looking outdoor brand. He had lost weight, his cheekbones were more obvious than before, there were deep dark circles under his eyes, his hair had grown longer, was unkempt, and was blown into a mess by the wind. "How did you know I was interviewing here?" I asked. He didn't answer, just looked at me. I'm very familiar with that kind of look. It's the look he gets when he's thinking seriously, with his pupils slightly contracted and his lips pursed into a line. I was particularly fond of this style before, and found him very charming like this. Now I just feel a chill on my back. Are you following me? I'm caring about you. Care? You stood outside the coffee shop where I was interviewing and told me that the hygiene rating was B. Is this caring? He was silent for a moment, and then said, "Get in the car, I'll take you back." Need not. It's cold outside. What does it have to do with you? I turned around and left. This time he didn't catch up, but I could feel his gaze stuck on my back, like a red-hot wire, which made my walking posture unnatural. Then he started appearing more frequently. On my way home from get-off work, his car was parked on the corner. I went to the supermarket to buy something, and he was standing in the frozen foods section looking at his phone, holding a box of ice cream that I often buy. As I passed him, he put the box of ice cream into my shopping cart, said, "What flavor do you like?" and left. I stood in the frozen foods section, looking at the box of ice cream, and almost cried. Not because of emotion, but because of anger. How does he still remember what flavors I like? Why does he still remember? Didn't he say I was just a child? What flavors does a child like and need to remember? He went to my mom's house. When my mother called me, her voice was shaking. "Emily, Alexander is here. He helped your brother find a summer internship and helped me fix the leaking pipe in the backyard. He said you asked him to come." I said no, I didn't let him go. My mother said, "Then why did he come?" I said I don't know, you let him go. My mother said that he was already leaving, but he left a box of things for you to give to me. I said I didn't want it and threw it away. My mom was silent for a moment and said, "Emily, he doesn't look good." I hung up the phone. That night, I received a message from him. "Your brother's internship is at Goldman Sachs." I said hello. "I replaced your mother's water pipe with a new one, with a 5-year warranty. Is there anything you need to repair over there?" I typed a few words and deleted them, repeated it about 10 times, and finally sent, "Alexander, what do you want to do?" He replied instantly, "I want to make sure you are doing well." "I'm doing fine. You moved to the 5th floor of an apartment in Queens without an elevator. You shared it with a nurse. There was a bar downstairs that was always causing trouble. Your window faced a brick wall in the building next door. Is that okay?" I stared at the screen, my fingers trembling. How does he know where I live? I haven't told anyone, not even my mother, the exact address. How do you know my address? He didn't reply. "Alexander, are you checking me out?" He replied, "I'm just making sure you're safe. You're monitoring me. I'm protecting you. I don't need your protection. You are not my dad. You are not my boyfriend. You are nothing. You said I am a child, so what are you doing now? Stalking a child?" He was silent for a long time. I stared at the typing message at the top of the dialog box, watching it appear and disappear, for about 5 minutes, and finally he just said, "Good night, Emily." I dropped my phone. 3 days later, he showed up downstairs at my house. I went downstairs to take out the trash and saw him standing at the door with a cup of coffee and breakfast in his hands. It's a sandwich from a nearby shop that I like. It's bacon, eggs and avocado. The bread needs to be toasted, not tomatoes. He handed it over, "Eat breakfast." I stood next to the trash can, holding a bag of garbage in my hand, looking at him. "How do you know I live on the 5th floor now?" He said nothing. "Did you find someone to check on me?" He still didn't speak, but his eyes flashed. "Alexander, answer me. You have breakfast first." "I won't eat. You have low blood sugar and will feel dizzy if you don't eat breakfast." "How do you know I still have hypoglycemia?" He fell silent. I threw the garbage bag into the trash can, turned around and walked back. He came up and took my arm. His hand was cold and strong, so I shook it but didn't shake it away. "Let go. Listen to me. Let me go. Emily, I know you're angry." "I'm angry? You're following me, investigating me, and monitoring me. Do you think I'm just angry? I just wanted to dash. What do you want? Do you want to control me? Do you want to prove that I can't live without you? Do you want to tell me that no matter how I run, I will eventually come back to you?" He let go, stepped back, and looked at me. His expression was strange, not angry or guilty, but I couldn't tell. It seemed like something had been revealed, and also like he was relieved. "Your sandwiches." He placed the bag on the doorstep. "Don't starve yourself." He's gone. I stood at the door, looking at the paper bag, for a long time. Finally I picked it up and threw it in the trash. Then I squatted next to the trash can and cried. Things started to get weird between us. He stopped popping up, but he started approaching me in another way. A job offer appeared in my inbox for an interview as an analyst associate at a small investment firm. I used to study finance, but I never found a suitable job after graduation, so I worked in a coffee shop. This company offers very good benefits and is close to where I live. The interview process went very smoothly and I was notified of the job the next day. On the day I joined the company, my supervisor told me, "Do you know who recommended you? Alexander Hayes of the Hayes Group. He said you are the most data-sensitive young man he has ever seen." I sat at my desk, staring at the computer screen, feeling my blood flowing backwards. He helped me find a job. He helped me find a job again. I wanted to quit, but this job paid 4 times what I made at the coffee shop, and I really needed this job. I gritted my teeth and told myself that I passed the interview myself. I just used his recommendation, but my ability was real. Then I discovered, so was my apartment. I accidentally chatted with the landlord and mentioned that I used to live in Manhattan and moved here because the rent was too expensive. The landlord said, "Oh, before you moved in, a man came to pay your rent for half a year, saying that you were his sister and that he had just graduated and was short of money. I thought it was your family." I asked, "What does that man look like?" The landlord said he was a tall white man with gray-blue eyes and drove a black Land Rover. I went back to the room and sat on the bed, feeling like a person trapped in a glass enclosure. I thought I moved house, changed jobs, cut off all ties, and that I was free. But in fact, I step on the road he paved every step of the way. He was waiting for me at the door of the coffee shop where I went for the interview. He paid the rent for the apartment I moved to. He recommended me to the company I joined. Even the pizza shop downstairs from mine, which I later found out was owned by his college roommate. I thought I was running away, but actually I was in his grasp the whole time. I started going out with Ryan more often. Not because I liked Ryan, but because I knew he would see it. I know he will scroll through my feed at 2 o'clock in the morning, looking at photos of me and Ryan at the bar, photos of Ryan with his arm around my shoulders, and photos of us going to the farmer's market together. I want to make him feel uncomfortable, and I want him to know that I don't have to do anything with him. But the thing that really broke me happened one Friday night. I worked overtime at the company that day, and it was almost 11 o'clock when I came out. I was waiting for the car downstairs and saw his car parked across the street. I pretended not to see it and looked down at my phone. After about 10 minutes, he got out of the car and came over and stood next to me. "I'll take you back." "Need not. It's not easy to take a taxi at this point." I called an Uber. "Cancel it, I'll send it to you." "Alexander, can you stay away from me?" He didn't say anything, just stood there and waited with me. The cold wind blew over and I shivered. He took off his coat and put it on me. The coat smells like cedar and leather. I used to like this smell so much that I once bought a bottle of the same perfume and sprayed it on my pillow. I took off the coat and gave it back to him. "I'm not cold." "You're shaking." "It has nothing to do with you." "Emily, what do you want?" I looked at him, my voice was trembling, but this time it was not because of the cold. "You rejected me and said in front of everyone that I was just a child. I left and you chased me again. You helped me find a job, helped me pay my rent, and monitor my every move. What do you want?" He looked at me for a long time, and then said, "I want you to be safe." Safety? When have I ever been unsafe? I lived in New York for 5 years, moved alone, looked for work alone, went to the hospital alone, walked alone through the streets of Brooklyn late at night, and I never felt unsafe. When I'm not safe, that's when I'm chasing you. His expression changed. That always calm, always restrained expression cracked a crack. I saw his Adam's apple moving, his lips opening slightly and then closing again. "Go back," I said, "and don't come back again." I got in the Uber and closed the door. When the car started moving, I saw him standing there in the rearview mirror, the streetlight shining on him, and his shadow was stretched very long. He stood there like a forgotten statue on a street corner. That night, I received a message from him, "I'm sorry." Only 2 words. I didn't reply. He literally didn't show up again for the next month. No tracking, no messages, no 2 a.m. visitor records. My life suddenly became unnervingly quiet. I started to habitually look at the street corner when I went home to see if there was his car. My heart races every time my phone vibrates. Then I breathe a sigh of relief when I realize it's a push notification. Ryan noticed something was wrong with me. He said, "Have you been distracted recently? Is there something going on?" I said no. He said, "Are you still thinking about him?" I said no. He said, "Emily, when you are with me, what you see is not my face." I fell silent. Ryan said, "It's okay, I can wait. But you have to tell me, do you like me or are you just using me to piss him off?" I looked at Ryan, his eyes were brown and warm, like autumn leaves. Alexander's eyes are gray-blue, like the sea in winter. Ryan's hands were rough but warm with traces of engine oil from car repairs. Alexander's hands were always clean, his nails were neatly manicured, and they were as cold as ice cubes. I cried. Ryan held me and said nothing. His hug was warm and smelled like a mixture of bicycle chain oil and laundry detergent. I cried on his shoulder for a while, then pushed him away and said I needed time. Ryan said yes. That night, I sent Alexander an unsolicited message. Are you okay? I regretted it after posting it, but it was too late. He replied instantly, not good. What's wrong? Do you care? I thought about it for a long time, typed, I care, and then deleted it. I typed, I don't care, again and deleted it again. Finally I posted, I don't know. He said, I know. Then he sent another message. When you moved into that apartment, I asked someone to place the sofa. Your original one was too old and was not good for your back. I looked at this message and didn't know whether to be angry or sad. He sent again, I did recommend your job, but you interviewed yourself. Your ability is real and has nothing to do with me. Then why do you recommend it? Because you deserve better. Why do you make decisions for me? Because you won't fight for it yourself. This sentence is like a knife, stabbing me exactly where it hurts the most. He's right. I really won't fight for it myself. I spent 8 years chasing him but never really achieved anything. I was just waiting for him to look back at me, waiting for him to realize that I was always there. I have never taken the initiative to arrange or control anything like him. Let's have dinner together tomorrow night, he sent. I hesitated for a long time and replied, okay. The next night, he showed up downstairs at my house. Wearing a white shirt and no jacket, he stood in the wind with his hands in his pockets. When he saw me coming down, he smiled slightly. The smile was very light, but I saw it. He opened the car door for me. The heater in the car was turned on fully and the seat heating was on. He took me to an Italian restaurant in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, not a fancy restaurant, but a very small family restaurant. Old photos hang on the walls, the tablecloth is red and white checked, and candles are stuck in empty wine bottles. How do you know this place? I asked. You said before that you wanted to eat real pasta. I was stunned for a moment. That was 3 years ago. We were watching a movie at his house, and I saw a scene of an Italian chef making pasta, and I casually said, I really want to eat authentic pasta. He said, yeah, and continued watching the movie. I thought he didn't listen. Do you remember? I remember everything you said. I don't know what to say. He ordered dishes for me, all of which I liked. Creamy mushroom pasta, grilled calamari, an arugula salad, and a bottle of Chianti. When the waiter served the food, he poured the wine for me, then raised the glass and looked at me. Here's to you. To what? I respect you until you leave, so that I can feel your presence. I looked at him, my eyes getting hot. I didn't raise my glass, but lowered my head to eat the noodles. The noodles are delicious. The aroma of mushrooms and the richness of cream are mixed together. It is the best pasta I have ever eaten. I took 2 bites and looked up to find that he had been looking at me without moving a bite of the noodles in front of me. Why don't you eat? I'm watching you eat. You're so creepy. He smiled and started eating noodles. That meal took more than 2 hours. We talked a lot, but it was all about insignificant things. He asked me how my new job was, and I said it was pretty good. My colleagues were very friendly. I asked him how his work was, and he said it was okay, but busier than before because there was one less assistant. I asked why there was one missing, and he said it was because the assistant had done some personal things for him and was transferred. Something personal? I asked. He glanced at me and didn't answer. After dinner, he took me home. The car was parked downstairs of my house. We sat in the car and no one moved. There was an old song playing on the car stereo. I forgot what it was, but I just remember that the melody was very slow and gentle. Emily, he turned to look at me, I want to tell you something. What? That day downstairs in the company, you were kneeling there, and you don't want to mention that, I think. He put his hands on the steering wheel, his knuckles turning white. I said you were a child, but I was lying. What? There was someone next to me. Someone was watching. I couldn't let them know that I had those feelings for you. What feelings? He didn't answer, but turned to look at me. The light in the car was dim, with only the blue light on the dashboard reflecting on his face. His eyes looked almost black in the dim light, deep, like wells. I looked at him, my heart started to beat faster, and I felt like the air in the entire car was being sucked out. He came closer, so close that I could feel his breathing. His breath was warm and smelled of red wine. He raised his hand and touched my face with his fingertips, very lightly, like a dragonfly touching water. Such a feeling. He said, his voice low, like the strings of a cello being plucked. His lips met mine. It's very light and short, like a snowflake falling on the skin, melting before I can feel the temperature. But at that moment, I felt like my whole body was burning. 8 years of chasing, waiting, disappointment, and anger all turned into a fire at this moment, burning from the heart to the fingertips, and from the fingertips to the top of the head. He pulled away a little and looked at me with an emotion in his eyes that I had never seen before. It's not his usual calmness and restraint, but something that has been suppressed for a long time and finally breaks out of its shell. "I'm sorry," he said, "I shouldn't have." I kissed him. I kissed him hard, with 8 years of grievance and unwillingness. I grabbed his shirt collar with my hand and pulled him over. His body crossed the center console and bumped into me. His hand was on the car window behind me, making a muffled sound. He was stunned for a moment, then kissed me back, putting one hand in my hair and the other clasping my waist. The only sounds in the car were our breathing and the melody of that old song. It was a long kiss. It was so long that I felt like time had stopped. It got so long that I felt that the previous 8 years were not important. What was important was this moment, the moment he kissed me, the moment he finally admitted that he wanted me too. He let go first, resting his forehead against mine, breathing heavily. "Emily," he said, "I don't know if I can." "Shoo," I said, "don't say it." I leaned on his shoulder, smelling the scent of cedar and leather, and felt like I was finally home. That night, he walked me upstairs. We stood at the door, he looked at me and said good night, and I said, "Do you want to come in and sit down?" He hesitated, shook his head, and said he didn't want to go too fast. I said yes. He kissed me on the forehead and said good night. I closed the door, leaned against the door panel, and smiled. I laughed for a long time, until tears came out. I thought everything was fine. I thought he finally admitted it and we could finally be together. I thought those 8 years of waiting had finally come to fruition. I was wrong. 3 days later I found out everything. I was working overtime at the company that day and needed to find a previous report. When I was browsing in the shared folder, I accidentally saw a folder named Emily. I thought my colleague had put it in the wrong place, so I clicked in and saw that it was full of documents about me. There was my background check report, a full 30 pages, everything from my birth certificate to college transcripts, from my social media accounts to my credit card spending records. There is a record of my address. Every place I have lived, including my apartment in Queens, is marked with the specific address and check-in time. There are records of my job applications, every resume I have submitted, the results of every interview, and even every question I was asked during the interview. There is also a document titled Project Emily. I'm sitting in front of the computer, my hands shaking. I clicked on the document and started reading. It was a detailed plan that was implemented starting in November last year. Article 1. Cut off Emily's social circle and let her leave the current environment voluntarily. Article 2. Provide Queen's apartment information through third-party channels to ensure that she moves into the designated address. Article 3. Arrange job opportunities and intervene in her career development through letters of recommendation. Article 4. Create a chance encounter scene and gradually rebuild the connection. Rule 5. Show emotions at appropriate times and build relationships. There are detailed execution records under each item, including date, time, participants, expected results, and actual feedback. I saw under the item, creating an encounter scene, it said, December 3rd, Brooklyn coffee shop. After the interview, the effect was good, the target's mood swings were obvious. On December 15th, we met in a supermarket and provided ice cream. The target's reaction was a brief hesitation, which was in line with expectations. I continued to scroll down and saw the last item, January 19th, Italian restaurant, showing emotions and establishing physical contact. The target responded enthusiastically and exceeded expectations. The project entered the next stage. January 19th was the day we went to the Italian restaurant. My fingers stopped on the mouse and I felt like my whole body was soaked in ice water. Cold air is coming out of every pore. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. I wanted to cry, but my tears seemed to be frozen. I turned to the next page and saw a screenshot of the chat history. It was a conversation between Alexander and a friend of his. Friend, are you sure you want to do this? She'd go crazy if she knew. Alexander, she wouldn't know. Friend, what if? Alexander, she can't live without me, it's just a matter of time. When she comes back to me, none of this will matter. I stared at the 5 words, she can't live without me, for a long time. I closed the file, turned off the computer, picked up my bag, and walked out of the company. I stood downstairs, looking at the traffic and people on the street, feeling like a puppet on strings. I thought I was chasing him, I thought I was choosing to leave, I thought I was starting over. But all, I thought, were designed by him. My departure was designed by him. He arranged my new apartment. My work is the road he paved. Meeting him, having dinner with him, and being kissed by him were all planned by him. I'm not even sure whether the fact that I like him is my own feelings or whether he guided me step by step. I stood on the roadside, took out my phone, and sent him a message. Where are you? He replied instantly, office. What's wrong? I'll go find you. Now? It's already 10 o'clock. I want to see you now. Okay, I'll wait for you. I took a taxi to his company. The building was quiet except for the security guard sitting at the front desk. He saw me and said Mr. Hayes was on the top floor. I took the elevator up. The corridor was dark except for the light in his office. I opened the door and he was sitting behind his desk with a pile of documents spread out in front of him. When he saw me coming in, he stood up. What's wrong? What happened? I walked up to him and handed him my phone. On the screen was the Project Emily document I took. He took a look and his expression changed. What is this? I asked. He said nothing. Alexander, what is this? He raised his head and looked at me. There was no surprise or panic in his eyes, only a strange calmness. It was as if he had known this day would come. You saw it. I asked you what this is. You know what it is. I want you to tell me yourself. He was silent for a long time, then said, it's a plan. What plan? A plan to get you back to me. When I heard this sentence, I didn't cry or shout, but smiled. I laughed until I bent over and laughed until my stomach hurt. He stood there looking at me, motionless. I finished laughing, straightened up, and looked at him. You investigated me, I said, you spied on me, you controlled my life, you arranged everything for me. Who do you think you are? Are you God? Emily, you are not indifferent, Alexander. My voice was trembling, but not because of cold, but because of anger. You are a pervert. You are a control freak. Do you think you are loving me? You don't love me. You are just playing a game, and I am your toy. It's not. 8 years. My tears finally fell. For 8 years, I chased you. I cried for you, laughed for you, and gave up everything for you. I thought you didn't like me, I thought I wasn't good enough, I thought if I just tried harder, you would see me. But did you see it? What did you see? Do you see a chess piece that you can control? He came over and wanted to hold my hand. I took a step back. Don't touch me. Emily, listen to me, listen to what you said. Hear you say, she can't live without me. I heard you say, it's just a matter of time. Alexander, do you think I'm ridiculous? Do you think it's funny that I'm chasing you like a fool? Never. Then why did you do that? Why can't you just tell me? Why can't you act like a normal person and tell me you like me? Do you want to use this method? What do you want my life to be? Your personal project? He didn't answer. I looked at him, looking at the face that I had been chasing for 8 years, the face that I thought I would never let go of in my life. His eyes are still that gray-blue color, but at this moment, in my opinion, they are not the sea in winter, but a piece of ice that will never melt. I hate you, I said. Then I turned around and left. He didn't catch up. When I walked out of the building, the security guard asked me if I needed help calling a taxi, and I said no. I walked on the street aimlessly for about 2 hours, from Manhattan to the Brooklyn Bridge. I stood on the bridge and looked at the water of the East River. The wind was blowing and it was bitingly cold. My tears were dried by the wind, flowed out again, and dried again. I want to jump. Not really wanting to die, but wondering if I did jump, would he think it was his plan gone awry? An ending he had no control over. I didn't jump. I turned around and walked back. The next day, I took leave and didn't go to work. I sat at home, staring at the ceiling, and thought about it all day. When Sophia came back, she was startled to see me sitting in the dark. She turned on the light and asked me what was wrong. I said it's okay. She said you looked like you'd seen a ghost. I said almost. She poured me a glass of wine and sat next to me. I told her what happened, and she was silent for a long time, and then said, this person, you need to make him pay the price. I looked at Sophia, and there was a very determined light in her eyes. She is a nurse and has seen too many lives and deaths, and has seen too many hurt people. She said, you can't just let it go. He will continue to do this to the next woman. He will feel it is right. I drank the glass of wine and then poured another. That night, I made a decision. This time, I'm not leaving. This time, I'm going to fight back. I want him to know that I am not a pawn. I'm not a variable in his plan. I am a person who has been hurt by him, a person who has the right to be angry and the right to fight back. I started making plans. I want him to fall in love with me. Really falling in love with me is not the kind of control, not the kind of possessiveness, but the kind of feeling that makes him afraid of losing and makes him painful. Then I'm going to make him lose everything. His dignity, his control, everything he was proud of. As a first step, I contacted him again. I sent him a message. Can we talk? He replied instantly, of course. Where are you? I'll go find you. No, I'll go to your office. Okay. I went to his office and wore his favorite dress, a white one. He said it looked like an angel. I put on light makeup and sprayed on the bottle of perfume he gave me before. When I walked into his office, he was answering the phone. When he saw me coming in, he hung up the phone in a hurry and stood up. Are you okay? He asked, his voice cautiously tentative. I'm not okay, I said, sitting on the sofa with my head down. I was so excited yesterday. I shouldn't have said that to you. He came over and sat next to me, not touching me, just looking at me. What you said, he said, is partly true. I shouldn't have done that. But you just don't know how to express it. I finished for him. He was silent for a moment and nodded. I shouldn't be investigating you. I shouldn't be manipulating your life, he said. I apologize. Does an apology help? I looked up at him, tears welling up in my eyes. Do you know how uncomfortable I am? I thought you cared about me, but it turned out you were just. I care about you, he said, his voice low. I care about you in the wrong way, but I care about you. I looked him in the eyes, trying to sound sincere. I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Give me a chance, he said, and let me prove it. I pretended to hesitate for a long time, then nodded. The next few days, I acted in a play. I became the kind of woman he wanted. Tenderness, dependence, and adoration for him. I send him good morning and good night messages every day, deliver coffee to his company when he works overtime, and massage his shoulders when he is stressed. I learned everything he liked, the red wine he liked, the music he liked, the movies he liked. I became his shadow, his mirror, whatever he wanted to see. He began to open up. He began to tell me about his childhood. His father left them when he was 12 years old. His mother raised him by herself and was extremely strict with him. He said he was taught from an early age not to show emotion because showing emotion is weakness. He said that when he first saw me, the way I was lying on the fence and laughing made him feel that there were still warm things in the world. When he said this, there was a fragile light in his eyes that I had never seen before. At that moment, I almost relented. But I didn't. Because I thought of that document and the 5 words, she can't live without me. Meanwhile, I did 3 things in secret. The first thing is to investigate his business black spots. I took advantage of my job and started contacting some of his company's former employees and competitors. I discovered that in a merger and acquisition case 3 years ago, he obtained the internal data of a rival company through illegal means, causing that company to go bankrupt and more than 300 people to lose their jobs. I found a former executive who was bankrupted by him at the time. That man's name was Dave, who now runs a laundry in New Jersey. He had an email exchange record from that time that could prove Alexander's involvement in data theft. The second thing is to be close to his mother. Mrs. Hayes was the queen of Upper East Side society and controlled the boards of several charitable foundations. Through a relationship with a colleague, I joined one of the foundations as a volunteer. I deliberately approached her and acted gentle, smart, and sensible, so that she felt that I was a woman worthy of her son. She began to like me, invited me to her house for tea, and told me about Alexander's childhood. She said that he was her greatest pride and greatest regret in her life, because she taught him too coldly. The third thing is to use Ryan to create love rival variables. I started going out with Ryan again, but this time instead of angering Alexander, I was creating a sense of crisis in him. I want him to suddenly realize that he might lose me when he is most proud. After Ryan learned about my plan, he was silent for a long time, and then said, "Are you sure you want to do this?" I said sure. He said, "Okay, I'll help you. But you have to promise me that no matter what the outcome is, you have to protect yourself." I promised him. Everything went according to plan. Alexander became more and more dependent on me. He started calling me at work just to hear my voice. He started picking me up when I was working overtime, with my favorite songs playing in the car. He started sending me messages late at night, saying, "I miss you." When these 3 words came out of his mouth, it was like some kind of taboo had been broken. One night we were drinking on the balcony of his apartment, looking at the night view of Manhattan. He suddenly said, "Emily, I used to think that feelings are superfluous." "What now?" I asked. "Now I feel that without you, everything I have is meaningless." I looked at his profile. In the city lights, his silhouette looked like a sculpture. When he said this, his voice was very soft, as if he was telling a secret. I almost relented again. But I told myself this was part of his plan. He said these words just to keep me by his side. He doesn't mean it. He never means it. I leaned on his shoulder and said, I miss you too. 2 months later, my plan was officially launched at a charity dinner in high society. The dinner was held at the Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, and all the guests were New York's elite. Alexander was one of the main patrons and his mother was the host of the dinner. Alexander took me there, wearing a black tuxedo, and I wore a dark red dress. He helped me choose it, saying that red would complement my skin tone. Ryan is here too, as a sponsor representative. I arranged it. Halfway through the dinner, while everyone was drinking and chatting, I walked on stage and picked up the microphone. Good evening, everyone, I said. I'm Emily Carter. Today I want to share a story with you. Alexander looked at me from the audience, his expression changing from doubtful to wary. His mother stood next to him, a glass of champagne in her hand, her smile frozen. This story is about a guy, I said, a guy I've been chasing for 8 years. I thought he didn't like me, I thought he didn't know how to express feelings, and I thought if I tried hard enough, he would see me. Someone started to whisper in the audience. Alexander's expression changed. He put down his glass and started walking towards the stage. But later I discovered, I continued, it's not that he doesn't like me, he is controlling me. He investigates my background, manipulates my life, and arranges everything about me. My job, my house, and my friends are all arranged by him. I am like a puppet, and he is the one pulling the strings. Alexander had already reached the edge of the stage, and he reached out his hand to pull me down. But I stepped back and looked at him. Do you know what is the scariest thing? I said, the scariest thing is not that he controls me, but that he makes me feel that this is love. The audience was completely silent. All eyes were moving back and forth between me and Alexander. The champagne glass in his mother's hand fell to the floor and shattered. I took a deep breath and delivered the first blow. I have something to announce today. I'm engaged to Ryan Brooks. Ryan emerged from the crowd and stood next to the stage. He was wearing a blue suit and holding a ring box in his hand. He looked at me with complicated eyes, including distress, worry, and a little something I couldn't understand. Alexander's face turned pale. What are you talking about? He looked at me, his voice was low, but I could hear him shaking. I said, I looked him in the eyes, I want to marry Ryan. You can't. Why can't I? Because because of me? Because I can't live without you? Because it's just a matter of time? He froze. I said the second blow, I also want to share something with you. About the merger and acquisition of Hayes Group 3 years ago. I took out a USB flash drive from my bag and held it in my hand. There is evidence here that proves that Alexander Hayes obtained internal data of competitors through illegal means in the Merrill Technology merger case, causing that company to go bankrupt. Alexander's expression completely changed. Not anger, but fear. I had never seen that kind of fear on his face, not even when he was at his most vulnerable. Emily, no. Why not? Are you scared? You don't know what you're doing. I know. I'm doing what you did to me. I'm making you lose control. The audience began to commotion. Some people are talking on the phone, some are taking photos, and some are whispering. I saw his mother being supported by 2 friends, her face pale. I saw several reporters starting to squeeze towards the stage. I said the third strike. I raised the microphone to my mouth, looked Alexander in the eyes, and said word for word, Alexander Hayes, you never loved me. You are just afraid of losing a toy that is only yours. His expression cracked. Not a peaceful crack, but a complete, devastating collapse. His eyes were red, his lips were trembling, his hands were shaking, and his whole body was shaking. He stood at the edge of the stage, looking at me like a beast trapped in a cage. Are you done? His voice was uncharacteristically hoarse. It's over. Then let me say something. He walked onto the stage and stood in front of me, just 1 step away from me. Everyone in the audience was watching. The security guard started to run towards the stage, but he raised his hand to signal everyone not to move. He looked at me for a long time, so long that I thought time had stopped again. Then he whispered something. The sound was very small, so quiet that only I could hear it. But every word hit my heart like a hammer. Emily, you have finally grown up. I was stunned. What did you say? You've finally grown up. He repeated, and the corners of his mouth even curled up slightly. The smile was very weak, but I saw it. That was the look on his face the first time he smiled at me in front of my fence. You think you're trying to kill me? He said. You think you've won? What do you mean? That document, do you think you found it by accident? My hand started to shake. I left it on purpose, he said. I opened the permissions on that shared folder. I let you see the Project Emily copy. No way. I recommended your job. I paid the rent for your apartment. I arranged your accidental encounter. You know all of this. But do you know, I also arranged the loopholes I left. I took a step back, feeling the stage shake beneath my feet. I've been waiting for this day, he said, for a long time. What are you talking about? I'm saying, his voice was very soft and calm, but every word was like a nail driven into my mind. What I'm waiting for is that you can control me in turn. My mind goes blank. You think you are counter-controlling me, he said, but have you ever thought that every step you take now is still part of my plan? You're crazy. Maybe, he said, but what I want has never been to be loved. What I want is a woman who can fight against me. A woman who can break all my plans, see through all my disguises, and make me lose control. He looked at me with a kind of fanatical light in his eyes that scared me. You did it, he said. I stood on the stage, still holding the USB flash drive in my hand, and felt like my whole world was turned upside down. I thought I won, I thought I finally broke free from his control, I thought I was killing him back. But he told me that even my counterattack was planned by him. So did he ever love me? Or am I just one of his long, elaborate games from beginning to end? I looked into his eyes, those gray-blue eyes. In those eyes, I saw control, I saw calculation, I saw the arrogance of a man who was used to being in control of everything. But I also saw something else. Something very deep, trapped beneath the ice. Is it fragile? Is it desire? Or another form of control? I have no idea. The only thing I knew was that I was tired. I didn't give him an answer on the spot. I put the USB drive away, walked off the stage, walked through the crowd, and walked out of the hotel. Ryan chased me out, held my hand, and asked me if I was okay. I said it was okay, I needed to be alone for a while. He said okay, I will take you back. I said no, I wanted to take a walk. I was walking alone on the streets of Manhattan. It was 2 o'clock in the morning in New York, and the lights were bright, like a city that never sleeps. I was walking through Times Square, and there was a huge screen flashing with an ad on it, and a woman was smiling, a smile that was so bright, just like the smile I had when I was leaning against the fence 8 years ago. I walked to Central Park, sat on a bench, and looked at the skyscrapers in the distance. It was starting to get brighter, and the sky in the east turned from dark blue to light purple, then orange. When the sun rises, the entire Manhattan is plated with a layer of gold. I sat there and thought for a long time. I thought about everything Alexander said. He said he remembered everything I said. He said that when he first met me, he felt that there were still warm things in the world. He said, you have finally grown up. He said, what I'm waiting for is that you can control me in turn. I thought about that document. The 5 words, she can't live without me, came to mind. I thought of the look on his face when he stood on the stage and said to me, you did it. I thought of a possibility that scares me. Maybe there was some truth in what he said. Maybe he did want to be controlled by me. Maybe he is really waiting for me to grow up. But the method he chose was to control me, monitor me, and design me. He treated me like a project, an experiment, a system he could optimize with data and planning. This is not love. This is domestication. I buried my face in my hands and cried for a long time. Crying until I thought my tears were dry, but they still flowed. I cry not because I hate him, nor because I love him. I cried because I realized that in these 8 years, I had never really been seen. What he saw was not me, but his project. What he loves is not Emily, but Project Emily. When the sun fully rose, I stood up, patted the dust off my skirt, took out my phone, and booked a ticket to San Francisco. The day I left New York, I didn't tell anyone. I sent a message to my mother saying that I needed to live in a different city for a while. I left Sophia a note saying that I had paid the rent until the end of the month and thanked her for taking me in. I sent Ryan a message saying I was sorry I couldn't get engaged to you, but I thanked you, I really did. Ryan replied, I know. Take care of yourself. I didn't send any messages to Alexander. I sat on the plane, leaning against the window, watching the New York skyline get smaller and smaller, and finally turned into a thin line, disappearing behind the horizon. The stewardess came over and asked me what I wanted to drink, and I said water. She handed me a glass of water and asked me if it was my first time to go to San Francisco. I said no, it was my first time to go alone. She smiled and said San Francisco was a good place to start over. I arrived in San Francisco and rented a small apartment in the Mission District. There was a bakery downstairs, and I would be woken up by the smell of bread every morning. I found a new job as an analyst at a small investment company. My boss was a woman in her 40s named Lisa. She had short hair and spoke very fast, but she was very nice. She said she was interested in my ability, not my letters of recommendation. I said I didn't have a letter of recommendation, and she said that would be better. I started living a new life. I get up at 6 o'clock every morning, go downstairs to buy a croissant, and then walk to work. Go to the gym after get off work, or go for a run in Golden Gate Park. Go to the beach on the weekends, or to a winery in Napa Valley, or do nothing but sit on the balcony of your apartment and read a book. I started meeting new people. My coworkers, my neighbors, my trainer at the gym, the lady who owns the bakery. They don't know who I am, they don't know my past, they don't know that I chased a man for 8 years, and they don't know that I was manipulated by that man as a project. All they knew was that my name was Emily, that I was from New York, and that I loved croissants. I started to feel like a normal person. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm lying alone in bed, looking at the ceiling, I think of him. I think of his gray blue eyes, of his words, "You have finally grown up," of his fanatical light when he looked at me on the stage. I would ask myself a question: did he ever love me? I don't know the answer. Maybe he loved. Maybe he was just manipulative. Maybe in his twisted world, manipulation is love. Maybe he thought he was protecting me and achieving me in his own way. Maybe he really thought that turning me into a woman who could stand up to him was the greatest respect for me. But so what? Whatever his motivation, the result is the same. I was hurt. I am being controlled. I was treated like a project. My pain, my anger, my awakening, were all part of his plan. This makes me feel that I don't even have the right to suffer, because even suffering is a script he gave me. It took me a long time to figure out one thing: his motives didn't matter. His explanation is unimportant. Whether he loves me or not is not important. The important thing is that I left him, I am alive, and I am starting over. A year has passed. That day was an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. I worked overtime until very late, and it was already dark when I came out of the company. The night breeze in San Francisco was very cool, so I wrapped my coat tightly and walked to the subway station. When I walked downstairs, I saw a man standing at the door. He was wearing an ordinary gray sweatshirt, jeans, and sneakers. No suits, no coats, no assistant standing by with tablets. His hair was longer and tied into a small ponytail, and there was a little stubble on his face. He looked older than before, but also gentler than before. He saw me and smiled. That smile was different from before. In the past, his smile was controlled and calculated, with only one corner of his mouth moving, as if giving alms. But this time, his smile was complete, his eyes were curved, and the fine lines at the corners of his eyes were visible. "How do you know where I am?" I asked. "I didn't check on you," he said. "I asked Lisa. She's your boss, right? I called her and said I was your friend and wanted to give you a surprise. She said you usually get off work at this time. Did you call her?" "Yeah. Just a phone call. No investigation, no tracking, no arrangements. Just a phone call." I looked at him, not knowing what to say. "Emily," he said, "I've thought about it a lot this year." "What were you thinking about?" "Thinking about everything I have done. I investigated you, monitored you, and controlled your life. I treated you as a project, a system that can be optimized with data. I thought I was protecting you. I thought I was helping you grow. But I was just satisfying my need for control." I was silent. "I went to see a psychiatrist," he said, "once a week for 8 months. I looked at him in surprise. "The doctor said I have a personality disorder, a controlling personality, which is related to my father's departure. I was filling my inner insecurities with control. I'm afraid of losing, so I want to take control. I'm afraid of being abandoned, so I want to make sure you don't leave." He lowered his head and looked at the tips of his shoes. "But that doesn't excuse me," he said. "I hurt you. This is true." The wind blew and I shivered. He noticed, but didn't take off his clothes and put them on me or ask me if I was cold. He just stood there and looked at me. "I haven't come across any information about you this year," he said. "I don't know where you live, where you work, or what friends you have made. I'm just waiting." "What are you waiting for?" "Wait until I become a person worthy of you." My eyes grew hot. "This time, I don't control you anymore," he said. His voice was very calm, but I could tell that he was trying to control his emotions. "You choose me or let me go. You decide." I looked into his eyes. Those gray-blue eyes, at this moment, are not the winter sea or ice. They are like the water of San Francisco Bay, glowing gently in the sunset. There is no calculation, no control, no plan. Just something very simple, very clumsy, and even a little scary. Maybe it's love. It could also be another form of manipulation. But this time, the decision was in my hands. I looked at him for a long time. It was long enough that the street lights came on, long enough that the proprietress of the bakery turned off the lights, long enough that a dog walker passed by us, and the dog barked at me. Then I laughed. Not a polite, perfunctory smile, but a smile that came from the bottom of my heart, with relief, and even a little naughty smile. I didn't say the answer. I just turned around and started walking towards the subway station. After walking a few steps, he stopped and looked back at him. He was still standing there, hands in his pockets, looking at me. The wind messed up his hair, but he didn't take care of it. He just looked at me and waited. I said, "Are you hungry? There is a good Chinese restaurant downstairs." His eyes lit up. I had never seen that kind of light before. Not the light of the controller, not the light of the planner, but the light of one who is allowed to be close. He came over and walked beside me. Our shoulders occasionally touched, separated, and touched again. He didn't reach for me. He said nothing about arrangements. He just walked beside me, walking with me to the Chinese restaurant. The night breeze in San Francisco is still very cold, but I suddenly feel that it is not that cold today. When we walked into the restaurant, the proprietress shouted to me, "Emily, my old seat?" I said yes. The landlady glanced at Alexander and said, "Boyfriend?" I glanced at him. He looked at me, his lips slightly parted, as if he was waiting for an answer. I said to the landlady, "I'm still thinking about it." The landlady smiled and said, "Then let him order a few more dishes and behave well." Alexander smiled like a fool. We sat in a window seat and he picked up the menu, looked at it for a moment, and then asked me, "What do you recommend?" It's not, "I'll order it for you." It's not, "What you eat," but, "What do you recommend?" I looked him in the eyes and said, "Mapo tofu." "It's delicious." He said, "Okay, then mapo tofu." "What else?" "You choose." He looked at the menu carefully and ordered a few dishes. Every dish was chosen by him, but every time he ordered one, he would ask me, "Is this okay?" When the food came, he gave me a piece of tofu and put it in my bowl. "Be careful of the burn." I looked at him and suddenly felt my nose was a little sore. I don't know if we will be together. I don't know if he has really changed. I don't know if this is the beginning of another plan. I don't know if 8 months of treatment for a controlling personality is enough. I don't know if someone who has hurt you deserves a second chance. But I know one thing. This time, it's me who chooses. He is not arranging, designing, or controlling. It was me, Emily Carter, a girl from Brooklyn, a girl who had been chasing a man for 8 years, a girl who had been manipulated, hurt, and treated as a project, and who decided in a Chinese restaurant in San Francisco whether or not to give this man a chance. That's enough. I took a bite of tofu. It was spicy, hot, and delicious. He watched me eat it, then took a piece of it and put it in his mouth, inhaling from the spicy taste. "It's spicy," he said, his eyes watering, "but it's delicious." I laughed and so did he. San Francisco outside the window is brightly lit, like a city that never sleeps. But this time, I don't feel cold.